From Washington, D.C. to the heart of America, welcome to Mark Alford's America. I'm freshman Congressman from Missouri, Mark Alford, and I believe in America. I believe in you. And most importantly, I believe our greatest days are still ahead. You know, each week we take you behind the scenes to share the stories, the news, the legislation, and to meet the great people who are helping shape our wonderful nation. And today we're talking with my friend, Congressman Jason Smith, Chairman Jason Smith. He represents the 8th District of Missouri. He is a 7th-generation Missourian, 4th-generation owner of his family's farm, and they actually have white buffalo. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. He is a champion for the values of rural Missourians. Jason was elected to Congress back in 2013. He served in the House leadership as conference secretary, and during his time in his position, he exposed the wasteful Washington spending that led to the fastest cost of living increase in 40 years. In January of 23, Jason was selected to be the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, the oldest committee in Congress. I'm honored to be his friend. He is my mentor. He is just a fantastic guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Smith, good to see you.
It's great to be with you, Mark. I believe in America, and I believe in you.
Well, thank you.
So it's an honor to serve with you, and it's great to be with you.
We are in this office. We'll have some pictures online. This is an incredible office. Usually we do these interviews in my office, but this is a special Ways and Means Chair office.
This has been the Ways and Means Chairman's office since 1907. It's the oldest committee in Congress, like you said. It's the committee that has sole jurisdiction over all tax, over all trade, most of healthcare, all of Social Security, a lot of the welfare programs, and then, of course, we have a pretty strong oversight arm over the IRS and some other things.
Getting here was not easy. You campaigned very hard to be chair of this committee. Why did you want to be Ways and Means Chair?
Being Ways and Means Chair will be able to allow the footprints of Missouri, our beliefs, our policies, to be on every piece of legislation that's signed into law, because it virtually will come through the Ways and Means Committee. And it's important that the federal laws that affect us are federal laws that benefit Missourians.
Let's talk about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act under the Trump administration. You were here for that. How important was that to get our economy cooking again?
When you look at the passage of the 2017 Trump tax cuts, it was phenomenal what it did with the economy. We saw the lowest unemployment, the lowest poverty in more than 50 years. We saw the economy grow by a 1 percentage point in GDP. We saw wages for the American worker increase by 5%. It was phenomenal what it did to the economy. It was the best economy in my lifetime. And a lot of those important policies have expired or will be expiring. There's 3 very important policies that have expired from there. That's the research and development expensing. That's the interest deductibility calculation. And it's the 100% expensing altogether. They have expired or they're phasing out. 2025 will be the Super Bowl of tax. In 2025, you will see every individual rate will increase. You'll see the death tax be cut in half. You will see the child tax credit be cut in half. You'll see the standard deduction cut in half. You'll see the small business deduction eliminating. So it's super important that we set the stage right now to prepare us in the future tax cut. If we do nothing in 2025, all Americans will face a $3.5 trillion tax increase.
Wow. And you combine that with the inflationary pressures that this president, this administration has promulgated on the American people. We're paying 20% more than what we did 3 years ago for a lot of items. This is injurious to the American people.
You know, the way that we developed the Tax Relief for American Families and Workers Act that we're working on right now in Congress, we started out with field hearings throughout this country. The first one was in a lumber yard in Petersburg, West Virginia, where we heard from coal miners, small business owners, working moms. We then went to a farm in Yukon, Oklahoma, where we heard from farmers and ranchers, oil and gas producers, other small businesses. Then we went to a factory in Peachtree City, Georgia, where we heard from factory workers, small business owners, working parents, and the issues that they are facing in today's economy, such as inflation going up 17.3% since Joe Biden's taken the oath of office. Wages have decreased more than 3% since Joe Biden's taken the oath of office. Real things that's affecting the average American to put food on their table, clothes on their backs, and gasoline in their cars. hopefully this tax package will help alleviate some of that pain.
Let's talk about the child tax credit. That's a little bit controversial. The Democrats always want more. The Republicans are trying to do, I think, a reasonable thing, and the tax credits that we're trying to retain that were under the Trump tax cuts. Tell us about that.
Well, first off, the child tax credit was created by Republicans. It was created in the 90s. It was doubled by Trump's tax cuts in 2017. So that's a Republican policy, and we don't need to forget that. What we've done with the child tax credit in this bill is preserve exactly the parameters of Trump's child tax credit of 2017. We've seen inflation go up almost 20% since 2017. We're indexing the top line for the child tax credit starting the next couple of years, indexing it for inflation. It was $2,000 in 2017. It's $2,000 in 2024. Inflation's gone up 5%. There's also a penalty in regards to the child tax credit that penalizes families who have multiple children. We're eliminating that penalty. Those are two of the biggest changes in the child tax credit. And so we are maintaining all the work requirements within here. The Democrats wanted to pass a child tax credit that was just like the one in the American Rescue Plan. That
during COVID,
it eliminated work requirements. It gave monthly checks. It made it 100% refundability. We said no to all of that. It would have cost $120 billion. What we've came to is something that costs roughly $11 billion a year.
And the child has to have a Social Security number in order to get these tax credits. You're not just giving this out willy-nilly to illegal aliens who are coming here to live off the dole of the American people.
That's exactly right. The Democrats wanted to take out the Social Security number that's required for the child tax credit. They did that in the Build Back Better. We said no. Trump's tax cuts put the Social Security requirement in the child tax credit for the child, and we are making sure that that's staying in.
How important is the investment that we will make with this for research and development, especially in Missouri? You visit the businesses in St. Louis and down in your district, and I do as well in the Kansas City area and Cass County in my district and Sedalia. How important is it to have the research dollars there?
Since the 100% expensing of research and development expired the end of 21, we have now seen research and development investment in the United States be negative. Whenever you're looking at China is 200% to 1 of where we currently are, we cannot allow China to have a competitive advantage against us when it comes to research and development. What this provision will do alone will create more than $70 billion in investment throughout the United States, plus it will help support more than 21 million jobs.
Wow, that's a lot of jobs. What else will this act do?
The 100% expensing, which is another provision in Trump's tax cuts that started to phase out. It was 80% last year. It goes to 60% this year. It'll be 40% next year. We make that 100% again. So any factory, any small business that purchase new equipment, new machinery, they can write it all off for the year that they purchase it. This will help grow the economy by more than $400 billion. It will help create more than 73,000 jobs. When you look at Trump's tax cuts of 2017, that these couple provisions are what helped grow the economy exponentially. The other item is the interest deductibility formula that was in the Trump tax cuts. That has expired, where businesses can no longer use depreciation and amortization in doing the formula. We know small businesses that you have spoken to, that I've spoken to, that they are facing tough times and they're having to borrow more money to make their business operate, and interest rates are now the highest they've been in decades. So this would help create a lot of relief. It is projected to create 867,000 new jobs, plus the take-home pay. For the American worker, it is projected this provision alone will increase take-home pay by more than $58 billion over the next couple of years.
That's huge.
Huge.
We're talking with Jason Smith, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, a friend of mine, a mentor. He has been. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about his white buffalo growing up down in the Boot Hill of Missouri, his love for farming, We're also going to talk about Social Security, Medicare, where we stand on that. The Democrats try to demonize Republicans, saying we're trying to do away or make cuts. And we're going to talk about the Biden crime family. I know the IRS whistleblowers have testified before your committee. I want to delve into that as we continue the impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden. You're listening to Mark Alford's America. So much to cover. Welcome back to Mark Alford's America, where we give you a behind-the-scenes look each week at Washington, let you meet some of the great folks helping shape our nation. The last couple of weeks, we've been in the district talking with some local patriots there. Today, we're talking with a friend of mine, Chairman Jason Smith, Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. Let's talk Social Security and Medicare because, look, we have financial issues in America. We are $34 trillion in debt, and yet the Democrats, especially during an election year, bring up this subject that we're going to make cuts. Everywhere I go, people are saying don't make cuts to Social Security and Medicare.
The Democrats love to use scare tactics to win elections because if they went on the policies that they support, they could not win to be dog catcher. However, this is exactly what they've tried to do. They've tried to say that we're going to cut Social Security and Medicare. That is completely false. People have worked so hard for the benefits that they've received, and we have made it crystal clear that we're going to protect and preserve these programs. Both of these programs become insolvent by what's estimated by 2032, 2033. So we need to figure out a way to make sure that those funds are there to provide the benefits that people have worked and paid for their entire life. But to say what the Democrats say is completely false when it comes to our focus.
This is probably a longer conversation than we have here left on Mark Alford's America, but what do you think some of the solutions might be long-term?
I think when you look at solutions long-term of our national debt, $34 trillion, we're in a tough place. We're in a bad place, but we didn't get there overnight. We're not going to reverse it overnight. There's two ways to reverse it. Grow the economy. That will help reduce it. If we grow the economy just by 1 percentage point over 10 years, that's $1 trillion in revenues. Trillion. That is extremely helpful whenever you're looking at how to address our budget deficit. We also have to address mandatory spending. You're looking at 75% of all of the spending in government is mandatory, but you can do it the right way. Do it the right way, eliminating the wasteful provisions. There's a lot of mandatory spending that is not Medicare, that is not Social Security, that we need to address and make a discretionary spending.
One of those I've been looking at on the Ag Committee is a SNAP program, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. It's supposed to be temporary. It's supposed to be nutritious. There's $34 million a day in overpayments. That's not acceptable.
There's that kind of waste in so many fronts. On this tax bill that we're working on, we're going to eliminate a COVID era program. By eliminating, we'll save us $78 billion.
Is that the employment retention tax credit?
Employment retention tax credit, $78 billion. There's $1 billion a day that will be saved. There's so many provisions in government where we can find this waste, where we can eliminate it and help. But it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to have to take a bipartisan effort moving forward on this.
Ways and Means Committee is over the Internal Revenue Service. You had IRS whistleblowers come before your committee this summer, I believe, to testify about the Biden crime family. Give us a brief synopsis of where that is, where the impeachment inquiry is now.
When I took over the Ways and Means Committee, I wanted to make sure that it was a committee that just didn't do policy. We also had an aggressive oversight arm. So I set up the IRS whistleblower hotline since we have jurisdiction of oversight over the Internal Revenue Service. And in my first few weeks as chairman, we set that up. In no time, we've started receiving a lot of whistleblowers that came forward. The two whistleblowers that have gotten a lot of attention came forward, and we're the ones who publicly released their 15 hours of depositions to the American public, which has virtually led to where we are right now, investigating President Joe Biden. We've been calling in and bringing in a lot of different individuals. They've been answering, some of them have been answering our questions fruitfully. Others are not being so helpful. We have Hunter Biden that will be coming in the end of February for depositions. This is the second attempt. We've tried to have him come in. It's phenomenal what we have seen from the IRS whistleblowers with the millions of dollars that have came from China, Ukraine, Russia, so many foreign nations into the 20 plus different
shell
corporations that the Biden family has been a part of. And 9 different members of the Biden family have received money from that, including 2 checks that went to Joe Biden himself.
One was for $40,000
and one was for $200,000.
That's incredible.
It's quite incredible. With the information we are seeing, it is leading to the fact that Joe Biden is probably the most corrupt and compromised president that we have ever had serve.
That's dangerous. We're at a time, an inflection point in world history where World War III could happen at any moment. I hate to say that, but when you have a president who's beholden to Xi Jinping, who's possibly beholden to the Russian oligarchs, beholden to anyone who's given money through these shell corporations, it's a dangerous proposition.
We had a Secretary of Defense that came out and said that Joe Biden, for the last 40 years, has been wrong on every foreign policy decision. You just don't naturally pick the wrong way. Why were you counter to the best interest of the United States for 40 years?
The Democrats were successful before I got here in impeaching President Trump twice. I think it did a great disservice to our duty as a U.S. House. Aside from declaring war, I think that's the second most solemn duty that we have, is impeaching the president or a member of his cabinet, and yet they have made a mockery out of it. Why are we doing things differently now?
We can't take impeachment lightly. It's very important. It's very serious. That's why we are aggressively trying to get all the facts, all the information, and figure out where they lead. And that's what you should do. What we have seen in the past is just off-the-cuff impeachments with President Trump. We saw them do it twice. One time they did it just within 2 weeks. It was absolutely unacceptable. We can't do that. We need to make sure we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed when we move forward.
Let's talk about Missouri. You grew up down in the Boot Hill, Salem, right?
In the Ozarks.
Yeah.
Salem, Missouri is my hometown.
What was it like growing up there?
You know, it's a small town, less than 5,000 people. Went to school there from kindergarten through 12th grade. I grew up most of my time in a single-wide trailer, and then we upgraded to a double-wide. My dad was an auto mechanic and a minister, and my mother was a factory worker. She worked on the assembly line at Briggs & Stratton putting lawnmower engines together, but always had a passion for the family farm and always worked on my granddad's farm growing up. And at my granddad's farm, he never even had running water. Just wash my hands at Christmas time. I had to go pump water out of the cistern and had to use the outhouse. That wasn't a fan of that. But I ended up, when my granddad died in my first year in law school, purchasing that family farm by selling timber on the place in order to keep it.
White oak and walnut?
White oak was the main thing. That's why you'll see these white oak barrels from our congressional district at each end. And so I still have that farm today. That's where I live. I raise registered Black Angus, Red Angus, Charolais cattle, Scottish Highlands. I have a herd of white buffalo. And
How do you end up with white buffalo?
You know, I've always had a passion. The white buffalo is sacred with the Native Americans. It symbolizes peace, and it's something I wanted to preserve. And so I had to go all over the country finding these white buffalo. And some people claim that I have the largest white buffalo herd in America.
How many head?
We have just under 30. So it's beautiful. Whenever you see a white buffalo calf born, it's snow white, and it's pretty sacred. But I also have donkeys. And the donkeys I have are all named after Democrats, Mud. That's one of the important.
Do you have a Nancy Pelosi donkey?
I have a Pelosi. I have a Bill, a Hillary, a Chelsea, and my newest one is named Hunter.
Hunter. Well, I don't want to imagine what that donkey trouble he gets into. Makes an ass of himself as well, doesn't he?
That's exactly right.
What's your future look like here? What do you want to do when you grow up?
You know, I just want to make a huge difference for the people that sent me to Washington. It's an honor to be able to serve with such good people like you and the Missouri delegation. And I think we have a real opportunity to lead. And I want to help deliver for small businesses, working families, and farmers, because that's who we represent in Missouri, and that's what I'm trying to push.
We've got to grow our majority, though. This small majority that we have is not working.
We will grow our majority. We gotta do everything we can to make sure we do it, and we need to win the White House, and
Yes.
we need to flip the Senate.
I think we'll do all three. Jason, thank you so much for being my friend and mentor and the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. Hey, thank you for joining us for Mark Alford's America. We'll talk again next week. Until then, remember, I believe in you, folks. I believe that our best days are still ahead of us. And Jason Smith, I believe in America.